that in the coming years in our high-tech society, we need people with college degrees, post-grad degrees. There are still plenty of good job openings. We heard the gentleman from Chevron mention this, for what you might call blue-collar or vocational jobs. He talked about the shortage of welders, a $70,000 job right out of, well, that's a good paying job. Please understand, we're all for college education, please. But I think we overlooked the VOCAD too, machine die operators, and he even talked about, I think, some companies that lose contracts or move out of the state because they can't find blue-collar trained people. So we can't college is not for everybody. It's for as many people who can do it, but it's not for everyone. Blue-collar jobs, or if you want to call vocational jobs, are also a huge potential market. We're not addressing that either.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm here on a dual role. I represent Basic Transit, and as well as a non-profit organization I run. And speaking on the name of the non-profit organization, there are already some regional and institutional arrangements working like the East Bay Green Corridor Alliance, that they should be part of the conversation because large companies, private, non-profits, and a number of different institutions, like for example, every year we put together this effort at UC Berkeley this past year, whereas we reach out to the high schools in the region. In 9 high schools, 550 students attended, 40 organizations were present, and many of these kids from high schools, from sophomores, they already came dressed up with resumes, interested in learning what the industry paths are. So there are already something that's going on in this direction. And the East Bay EDA obviously is another great example of some institutional arrangement that's already taking place. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel, we just need to make sure we are all in the same place talking with each other.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there definitely are some examples where how do we think about we can make that happen within the East Bay? Because I don't believe we have anything to the scale that LA has within the East Bay today. So if we could think a little bit more strategically around the whole idea of a collaborative across all those different groups, what are some things that need to be true or need to happen for this to occur? So why don't we kind of go that direction a little bit? So that kind of gets into number 2 and number 3.
This is what Alma already said, but buy-in and leadership.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Alma already said this too, but it's finding the lead organization that's appropriate. For LA, it was a big countywide chamber of commerce. I'm personally intrigued here by the East Bay EDA. They've been doing this work for a year and started with the Building on Our Assets report that kind of precipitated a lot of that, but you need an umbrella organization that can provide the leadership and bring all the different sectors together, feeling safe and working toward collaboration.
I guess just to build on that a little bit, I think in LA it was a Chamber of Commerce. I think in Cincinnati it was the United Way who was that umbrella organization. What are some examples or potential umbrella organizations that could lead this within the East Bay, besides the EDA, is one option. Anybody have any thoughts around that? All right, Karen, looks like you have it.
I have a question. We're talking about the East Bay, which is, a big county, and it's a great county. Not county, it's an area. But really to make it regional, because LA is a very big area that's not divided by a bay. And, the peninsula is a big area as well. I think there should be something that's regional for what would you call it? The whole Bay Area economic development, because I'm from Silver City. So I have offices in Berkeley, I have offices in San Mateo, and we have, all over the place. So if we grew to have a place that is knowledgeable about the whole Bay Area, because right now it's too fragmented.
No, I actually think that's a great idea that we haven't thought about. So how do we kind of broaden the scope here to not only be the East Bay, but also San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and everything else? No, fantastic. I think that's a good one. the surrounding area. Other, and any other potential umbrella organizations or how this would work? Yeah?
ABAG may be a potential one, Association of Bay Area Governments.
The Bay Area Council was another one. Other, we've talked are there any other examples of some of the elements we heard today, some of the strategic elements around collaboration or some of the other broader programs that either are working well in the East Bay? You want to talk about?
I think one of the things that there is a framework, but I'd really be interested to see the framework that you all came up with in LA, because I think one thing that was clear is there's a lot of, the gradient is to train as many students as possible, and especially when the large grant comes in, everybody's under the gun. So the tendency will be to go towards students that are most ready and will get through and in and out and complete. What happens to those other students that are more challenging to get to, like you were saying, you got to go out and knock on the doors. It's amazing that you were able to get the mayor and the superintendent to go knock on doors. But that must come from prior conversations, a framework that talks about let's do what matters for the economy, for the schools, but for the students. And it's not just about an economic imperative; it's about a social equity imperative.
Oh, great point.
I think the reason why we need to focus on the East Bay first is because we are really very different from the Silicon Valley. For example, just in demographics, our educational attainment is vastly different from what they have there. So therefore, we just can't approach the two areas at the same time with just one single type of program. And that's, I guess, the reason why the East Bay EDA approached this process this way, to focus on the East Bay because of our specific inherent cluster type of development, looking forward to the people that actually live here in this area. It's not that we don't care about our friends in the South Bay. We love them dearly, but they already have their own institutional arrangement working. So we need something like this here. It doesn't exist. And the need is big because our future is bleak, really. That's what the report said, right? Just looking at the data. Our future is really bleak. If we don't take care of the educational attainment needs and we don't connect these people with the needs of the latent demand of the industries that are emerging now, right? As the gentleman was talking about, Chevron not finding workers for the $70,000 employee. I think we better prepare to join that regional, ultra-regional conversation when we have strong regional clusters developed. Then we can work much better, that way. It's just what I think. Following the Porter model.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Robin Freeman from the Merritt College Environmental Program in my own small business. And I think going back to the question of how to develop a collaborative and an umbrella organization, I think it would be great to involve our community college students or classes in helping with that. We've been stepping up the plate with some environmental community projects and being the umbrella that keeps them going, and it's worked very well, especially if we have high school and college students involved. And so that would fit with the collaborative funding, because obviously that would have to be funded. But also it's a useful and inexpensive way of getting more feet on the ground to tie in with the sector of small businesses and small organizations where supposedly 80% of new jobs are, and then that can be pathways to larger situations.
Okay, I just want to kind of paint the picture maybe a few years down the road. Say that we're successful in creating this umbrella organization. We've got it's cross functional. We've got leadership from the political leaders and the business leaders and the education leaders, and we're able to start to set up these intermediaries or liaisons by sector. So if you kind of think ahead a little bit, how do people think we should structure these sector liaisons? What should their scope be? Who should be included in them? People start thinking ahead. I mean, how do you think we should make that become a reality? These sector liaisons who are working with the businesses, employers, they're understanding the skill needs, they're translating them back to the educational workforce programs. What are some thoughts around that, is how we can make that work?
If I may, it just may be semantics, the way you just phrased it, because you said working with the businesses. I don't think we need to work with businesses. I think the businesses have to be involved to begin with. It needs to be, the businesses need to be part of the whole collaborative of workforce development and educational facilities all together, like a commune.
So are you saying that the businesses would be heavily involved in each of these sectors?
Well, different businesses, yeah, just the formation of the whole.
Okay, sounds good.
From the beginning.
Okay, others?
Knock on doors, that.
Okay.
For new programs, I think it's important that there's a board of directors that basically governs what's going on with the new program and how the new programs are set up. The other thing we have to get away from, though, is this idea, at least at the community college level, of productivity, which is the antithesis of education. And the more people the state really thinks they're getting a lot more bang for their buck if we crank out 7,000 people in a classroom. The reality of that is the only people that succeed are the ones that were going to succeed anyway, right? And so we have to crank out specialists and not just numbers.